Hi, everyone, and welcome to our March 24th coffee break. And actually, this is part two, because part two is Stacy sharing a great elementary resource called From Fur to Timber, Economic Changes Between 1745 and 1820. Also concentrating on a tool this month, NotebookLM, to create slide decks. So you can go see that video on the same playlist on Learn and check that out. But she had quite a complex resource to share. Lots of great uses of NotebookLM slide decks plus Canva to alter them and to use them in an activity that concentrates on the intellectual operation, causal connections, and it's quite useful for secondary in that time frame as well. So this week, I went a little different route than Stacy did. I'm actually assuming that students could be using NotebookLM to generate slide decks, and I've included the option if they can't use it to instructions for how a teacher could produce these slide decks, and I've even included sampled slide decks that I produced based on this activity strategy that could be used in a pinch as well. Because my approach is to create it's an analysis process where students are examining and analyzing documents, but the process also includes an AI generated analysis that are the slide decks, and they're going to compare those two. I wanted a large pool of documents to work with. So I actually combined two sections of my website. In the origins section, the part on contacts, colonization attempts, and the part on the alliances in the first section of that website, which I'll show in a second. And students are involved in collecting documents. So the why, students need to learn how to gather and analyze and interpret information, but they also need to do that critically. And they need to learn how to critically use AI tools like NotebookLM during the process. In other words, when they're using AI, they need to be critical of the AI. Again, this is for secondary cycle 2 students. When I talk about the website, I'm talking about the history of Quebec and Canada, cycle 2 level history site, and specifically ones that have NotebookLM access already or that the teachers do. Because it's hard to sort of fathom how this works without having access, at least on the teacher side. So it's available on the Learn Educators site as a resource. So it would look like this. It's open already in the background, and it links directly to the student page, actually. But you can also find it, as I said, on the secondary website in two sections, in the Colonization Attempts and 1603 Alliance, but also in the Jacques Cartier and Charles Baudelaire Royal section at the bottom of that as well, because those are the two document collections that it combines. So I'll take a look directly here at the activity. So I actually use NotebookLM to do a nice infographic of the instructions. So we could use that as well for me to explain it. Basically, students are going to be curating and filtering primary sources. So they're going to download and learn document collections, but they're going to pick 3 to 5 pages that best illustrate a certain historical shift. In this case, it's changes and continuities. So they're going to map out the continuity and change. They're going to use some tables to write down what changed and what stayed the same. So that's the main intellectual operation of this activity. And once they've done that themselves, they're going to generate slide decks with the same materials, with the same selections that they made, and they're going to evaluate and critique those AI generated findings. And then in the end, with the combination of what they found and what the AI found and the best results, they're going to write a paragraph explaining the changes in continuities. So that's the final evaluation for that intellectual operation. And the process looks a bit like this. So I'm going to just zoom back out again to get the picture. So here it suggests working in groups and using two document collections. So documents on Jacques Cartier-Charlesbourg, as I said, and document on rivalry and alliances. And the idea is that they pick 3 to 5 different document pages, and that they feel best describe changes in continuities, because the document collections describe other things as well, like location and that sort of thing. So they pick the pages they want, and I'll show you very shortly now what those might look like, because I have some samples. And then they use these tables that I created. So basically, there's a continuity table for one collection on Jacques Cartier. There's a change table for the same collection. But again, it's not the whole collection. It's the documents that they've selected that they feel represent change. And they can explain, the element of change and put an example from the document collection. And of course, these can expand to allow them to write in them as well. So I'm going to jump right over to the teacher guide, which is available down here if you have access to the protected areas because you're part of the teacher community. Otherwise, just request. And I did have some sample choice pages in a folder here. So the teachers are going to want to know about this folder, because in this folder there are sample choice pages, and there are also sample notebooks generated, actual generated slides that I'll show you in a second, done by NotebookLM. So basically, this is, if you're familiar with these document collections, there's several document pages, but some of the document pages are not going to be referring to changes and continuities. So the students pick like 3 to 5 of them, and then they delete the other pages. So this one is a selection that's longer, quite a bit longer actually. And whoops, go back again. And I'll try this one. So these are some sample pages. See, there's only 3 pages here out of a larger, 17, 20, 30 page document collection. Students pick which pages they thought had some information about change in continuity. So once they've done that, then they're going to produce slide text using NotebookLM. So this is a note saying, you can only do this if you have access to NotebookLM as a student. But if not, your teacher may be able to do them for you. It's very quick for teachers to do them. And again, this is group work, so there conceivably would only be 5 collections from each of those collections, so 10 at the most. And then you put this type of prompt into NotebookLM. So I'll just read it. Create slide deck based on the contents of this PDF that explains any changes and continuities that result from the events described in that PDF. Consider the territory, political events, economic, social changes, so aspects. As well, make sure you consider the perspectives of various historical actors involved. So that's an extra to make sure that they're getting perspective, because their own choice is a perspective, right? And they may not have included perspectives of the players involved, the historical actors, not just from New France, but also Indigenous peoples and so on. So, and then they're going to get, I'm going to go back to the folder. They're going to get they're going to get some notebook slide decks produced. And this is an example of a notebook slide deck. I checked this over. It's got too many errors if it does have any, but it's the kind of thing that the notebook produces. So this is for contacts, order in St. Lawrence, exchange at Chaleur Bay. So if you've noticed, there's different things said about it. The shift indicating change, environmental continuity. So see, they're throwing in change and continuity in the description. So the students go through these and they read what it came up with, the shift, there's a change one, driving forces of change, and so on. So these are fantastic resources in themselves, but the students have already picked documents, and they've already made their choices of what changed and what stayed the same. So now they're going to go and look at those, and they're going to use these tables here just to simply write down the new points that it made well, things that they noticed in the slide deck that they didn't think of, and for both continuity and change, but also put down points that did not represent well or that it missed in the ones that you thought were important. So it gives them a chance to say either that the slideshow is way off or it's misrepresentative, or that it didn't do things well. So they've got a good selection of things on the left side that it made well to add to their choices. And then they're in a good position now to write a response to the inquiry question to explain changes in continuities that occurred between period of first European contact and first European settlements. So what changed between the contact and the settlements happening. So I thought this was a great example of when you have a great, powerfully produced slide decks. This is the other one for alliances, and you arrive at it already knowing the subject matter. And that's how AI, in my opinion, is best used. AI works great when you already know what you're talking about. So the students are arriving at the AI produced slide deck already having chosen what's their own documents and their own examples of continuity and change. And so when they see this, they can be critical of it, they can work with it, they can benefit from it. And I already see a mistake there. Gonna fix that with Canva, as Stacy showed in her other video. And I'm going to end there. So reminder, this was the second part of today's share on a NotebookLM resource. The first part was in elementary, where Stacy shared use of NotebookLM to produce slide decks about the fur to timber period, changes between 1745 and 1820. I highly recommend that you go and check that out in part 1 of this week's copy break. So we will both see you next week, and hopefully we'll keep the shares down to 5 minutes each so we get them into one video again. And next week is also, by the way, on NotebookLM, our final one in the series on flashcards and quizzes not to be missed. See you next week.